Hello and welcome to the Senior Phase Options presentation for 2023. I'm Mr Lanigan. I'm in charge of the Senior Phase, that's S4 to S6. And the purpose of this presentation is to just go through the process that all pupils in S3 to S5 will be going through over the next few weeks. So I want to welcome third year pupils in particular and their parents. This is the first time that you'll have been involved in the Senior Phase options presentation, but you've got some important choices to be making before you move into fourth year. Some of the slides in this presentation, which will go through the process, will be more relevant to certain year groups, so feel free to tip on the presentation if you feel that a particular slide is not important. The way that you move the slideshow on is if you hover the cursor down to the bottom left hand corner and you'll find the arrows that move things forward. To start off by just explaining exactly what will be in this presentation tonight. I'm going to start by talking about how you progress through the levels from S4 to S6, talking about some of the courses that are available within the school. I will also talk about how we seek to widen the choice as widely as possible to give your son and daughter as much choice as we possibly can. I'll then go through the details of the option process itself, and unfortunately I won't be able to take any live questions because this is a recorded presentation, but your pupil support teachers will be happy to field any questions, and they'll pass anything to me that they can't answer themselves, and I'm happy to give you a call back and just clarify anything that you're unsure of. I want to look at the progression between the different levels through the senior phase. So the biggest proportion of the courses that are offered from S4 to S6 are national courses, and they run from National 3 right up to Advanced Higher between S4 and S6. Now the courses should articulate through the levels so that you move up the scale and each pupil can progress at their own pace. Now that's not to say that everyone will progress right through to Advanced Higher, and in fact only a tiny number of pupils will do Advanced Higher. So you will progress at a pace and a level that suits you. Now these national courses are available at 5 levels through S4 to S6 in Clyde Valley. But it's important to note that not all subjects will be able to offer all at every level. And if you're unsure of what level that you are going to be studying at, then speak to your teacher and look at your recent report cards to see which level you will be progressing at. For the vast majority of S4 pupils, it will be a mixture of National 4s and National 5s that you will do. And then in S5 and 6, for the vast majority, it will be National 5 and higher. What you can see in this slide are the 5 levels of national courses that are generally offered at Clyde Valley. And as you can see, it's a sliding scale of difficulty. The aim is that your child will move through the levels, progressing as far as they can to the point at which they leave high school. So, in general, what you can take from that is that if you sat, for example, National 4 in a subject in 4th year, then in 5th year you would be looking to take that on to National 5 and so on and so forth. Now, in S5 and S6, in general, the classes will, as I've already said, be higher in National 5. Now, sometimes both levels are housed within the same class, if that is possible. or if uptake is high enough, we will have separate classes for National 5 and higher. But multi-level classes are fairly common in the senior phase. Advanced higher, we will offer as many advanced hires as we can, but our ability to run these is dependent entirely on the number of pupils wishing to take an advanced hire in a particular subject, and also in staffing levels, and whether it can be accommodated. But we'll talk in a minute about how we widen choice across the senior phase to accommodate things like advanced hire. So we look to widen choice within the senior phase through the use of what we call the consortium arrangements. And what that means essentially is that we work in partnership with local schools to widen the choice for senior phase pupils. It should be pointed out that it is only available to S5 and S6 pupils, not to S4 pupils. Since the pandemic, courses offered through the consortium arrangement have largely been online, although not exclusively, and that may continue to evolve over the coming year. So the purpose of it is to increase viability of courses in which low numbers of pupils are choosing in any one school. And that's particularly important when it comes to advanced higher, where you may only have 1, 2 or 3 pupils in a school of our size wanting to do advanced hires in particular subjects. So if we pool resources between schools, it makes advanced hires more viable and increases the choice. In addition to the national courses that are offered in schools, we are also in partnership with New College Lanarkshire to provide other vocational courses, and again it's pooled resources within the consortium schools. So you can see some of the courses that are offered typically by New College Lanarkshire, and what will typically happen is that if a school has a reasonable number of pupils wanting to do any one course, then the course may well be based in that school, and then other schools can buy into to that and have pupils accessing courses at that other school. It has been a mixture of online and in some cases in person, pupils going to other schools. But we every year will have a fair amount of uptake for things like psychology and childcare. All courses have a minimum uptake requirement, and there's no guarantee that all of these courses will run in any one year. So in addition to national courses and college courses, there is another offer, and that is foundation apprenticeships. And it's offered to pupils in S5 and 6. And again, it's in partnership with New College Lanarkshire. So these courses normally run for 2 years for S5 pupils, and they fit in within the column structure of school timetables. So if you chose a foundation apprenticeship in S5, it would substitute one of the subject choices, and you would be expected to carry it through to the end of S6. So they combine classroom-based knowledge and work experience placements. The work experience placements are generally done in S6 if you're doing the 2-year model. And what do you come out with at the end of it? Well, it's an industry recognised qualification. It's an SCQF level 6. So that's roughly equivalent to a higher. And usually, you know, it will really help you into an actual apprenticeship at the end of it. Now, there's also a 1-year foundation apprenticeship for S6 pupils, but it should be noted that if any S6 pupil is taking this, it will be instead of 2 subject choices, so it runs over 2 columns. So you'll do the skills-based classroom stuff alongside a work placement throughout the course of the entire year. Now what you see here are the 12 foundation apprenticeships that have been offered in recent years. The courses are delivered in combination with New College Lanarkshire and local employers. Not all of these courses are guaranteed to run. Like any course, including school courses, they rely entirely on a viable number of pupils choosing that course. But this gives you an idea of the type of course that is on offer. So the aim of this slide is to kind of sum up the progression pathway through from S4 to your point of exit from school, and what you would move into in your destination post-school. So in summary, in S4 you take 7 curricular subjects, with English and Maths being compulsory, and it'll be expected that these subjects will be taken mostly at National 4 and 5. Then moving forward into S5, you specialise further from 7 subjects down to 5. At this point, no subject is compulsory, but it should be noted that English and Maths are recommended, that you don't leave school without your English and Maths to National 5 level at least. In S5, most of the courses are higher in National 5, but then that's augmented by the offer that I've just gone through in the previous screens of college courses and foundation apprenticeships. Then moving on into S6, you'll be expected to take 4 or 5 curricular subjects. Now that is a generalisation, it will depend on what you're actually taking. For a pupil who's taking advanced hires, then we would expect that advanced hires are much more demanding, and you may only do 2 or 3 advanced hires, possibly 2 advanced hires and a hire. So there is flexibility within it. No subject is compulsory in S6, and again you've got the same augmented offer that you've got in S5 with college courses and foundation apprenticeships, and added into the mix there is a volunteering option, which is really quite popular with S6, and involves courses such as peer education or a volunteering placement in a workplace that you find yourself. Peer education involves helping out in classes within the school with younger pupils. And that should all lead into what we would hope to be a positive destination for every pupil. Now, whether that be employment, apprenticeship or training, further education or degree level courses either at HNC and HND or at university. So we now move on to the actual options process that our young people will be going through. I'm going to start with the current S3 pupils, those making choices for their S4. So at the moment, all S3 pupils have got 9 subjects that they are doing. And over the last few weeks and over the next couple of weeks, their future option choices will be a feature of PHSE lessons. Then we've been doing lots of preparatory work on My World of Work, which is a website which looks at skills and how they translate to subject choices and then the workplace. So the key thing to know is that in S4, pupils must study 7 subjects. English and Maths are compulsory. So effectively, what every pupil must do in the current S3 is choose which other 5 subjects they want to take on out of the existing subjects that they are already doing. So effectively, what that means is that they have to work out which subjects they would like to drop. So to do that, every S3 pupil will fill out a Microsoft form and they will select the 2 subjects that they want to drop ideally. Now, it will also be necessary to take a reserve choice from all pupils, i.e. if you don't get those two subjects that you want to drop, which would be your next choice of a subject to drop. It should be noted though that most pupils will get their first choice subjects. Once that's been done, the choices will be collated by Mrs. McNaughton and we will work out which classes are viable. So it may well be that there are one or two classes that will have to be dropped because it doesn't have the necessary uptake, or it could mean that classes will be amalgamated, so where we had two this year we might only have one next year, and so on and so forth. So we now move on to the current S4 pupils who will be making their option choices for S5. So in preparation, there'll be lots of work done in PHAC lessons. There's also going to be a careers fair in the school where pupils will get a chance to speak to local employers and colleges. And I'll also be going through, as I will be for each year group, some of this presentation at an assembly. In addition, you can look at the options booklet online for S5 and 6. So that's available on the school website, and that details lots of the subjects that will be on offer. Now, the options for S5 and 6 are done using an options software that we used last year, which collates pupil choices and then works out columns, the optimum column structure to allow the most people to get their first choice in subjects. So fairly soon you'll be getting letters with login and passwords for the options software, and also there will be further instructions about exactly how you make your choices. It is very simple and straightforward, but that will all be winging its way to you fairly soon. So pupils in S4 will need to further specialise their subjects from the 7 they've got now down to 5 next year. Now, it will be an open choice at this stage. And whilst neither English nor Maths is compulsory in S5 and 6, you need to be aware that many college or university courses and also apprenticeships will require you to have English and Maths to a certain level. Therefore, the recommendation is that you at least try and gain a National 5 in English and Maths. So you will make 5 choices from a list of subjects, of about 30 odd subjects that will be on offer. You will also have to make reserve choices because getting your first five choices is not always guaranteed. Now, separate to this, we'll also get pupils to fill in a form for any college courses or foundation apprenticeships that you might be interested in, and they'll be taken separately to the options online form. So finally, we look at the option choice process for S5 into S6 pupils. Now, essentially, the online process is exactly the same as detailed in the previous slide for the new S5 pupils. So S5 and S6 pupils are, of course, timetabled together. So you're making your option choices from the same list of subjects. So like the new S5 pupils, over the next few weeks, you will get logins for the options software and instructions about how to carry it out. And I say that S6 are encouraged to fill their timetable, and you will be allowed one study column at the discretion of the school. So that's 6 periods of study. What we find is that the more study a pupil has, the more study time I should say, that a pupil has, it doesn't necessarily mean that more studying is done. The reality is that it can tend to make some pupils lazy, and therefore we do encourage them to fill their timetables purposefully. If you're doing 4 hires or at least 1 advanced hire in 6th year, then a study column is allowed. It should be noted that advanced hire students should have a study column per advanced hire. So if you are doing more than 1 advanced hire, you may actually have 2 study columns, and that is because of the amount of independent study and coursework that you need to do. Now, we encourage our S6 to get involved in peer education and volunteering. The S6 are very much part of the management and leadership within the school, and we obviously want them to apply for captaincies, but we also want them to be involved in looking after our younger pupils. And peer education is an amazing way of doing that, where you are placed in a class with S1 or S2 pupils and you help the teacher. You can also look to volunteering places that might be focused on a career pathway that you want to pursue. It's really important in S6 that you are making informed choices, so you do the research about what you are thinking about for your after school. Once you leave school, what are you going to move into? So have a clear plan at this stage in moving into S6. So what happens next after all our senior phase pupils have made their choices? Well, the options software will collate all the information and then work out the 5 columns in S5 and S6 that suits most of the pupils in terms of the choices that they have made. So we will offer, as I say, about 30 subjects, but there are only a limited number of timetabled slots, so inevitably subjects have to be timetabled against one another. And for that reason, not every pupil will get their first 5 choices. And that is when the reserve choice will kick in. Now, the option software should absolutely maximise the number of pupils who get their first choices, but it is impossible to get 100% of pupils to be completely satisfied and to get their first 5 choices, every one of them. So that's when the reserve choices kick in. All these choices must be made by Friday the 3rd of March, so that really should be the end of the options process, or the first phase of the options process. Thereafter, those option choices will feed into a timetable. We'll know which classes are viable, how many classes we'll need in each subject, and we will aim to have a new timetable up and running in June, post SQA exams. So effectively, the new S5 and S6 and new S4 pupils will start in June. Now, once you've made those choices, that is not the end of it, because obviously, SQA exams will have been sat and changes can continue to be made into the new session up to the beginning of September. So changes can be made to initial choices in light of SQA results, in other words. Now, once the options software has weaved its magic and decided what is the 5 best fit columns for Clyde Valley High School this year, I will produce a physical option sheet, and it'll look something like this. And I think this will help you to see the reality of the fact that not all of you will get your first 5 choices, because we're going to offer over 30 subjects probably at a variety of different levels, from National 5, National 4, SCQF, Advanced Higher. So there's lots of different options, and there is only 5 column slots during the week in a timetable. So inevitably there are going to be situations where you might have more than one subject in a column that you that you want to do as part of your first 5 choices, and that's why the reserve choices are very important. So just returning to that idea of making the right choices, how do you make those right choices? Apart from the advice that I've already talked about, I would advise you to check university and college prospectuses, because they will give you guidelines for the subjects that you should be choosing and what the entry requirements are for each of those courses. You should also keep an eye on jobs websites. They will give indications of the qualifications they want. And to refer to something called labour market information, I'll talk a bit more about this in the next slide. But it's information that's freely available about what the projected jobs growth areas will be in the next 10 years. I think it's particularly important in the type of climate that we're in at the moment. In general, the advice should be that you choose subjects that you're good at, first of all, and that you enjoy. If you're not particularly engaged with a subject, if you're taking it just because you think you should, then the reality is you're likely to do less well than a subject that you're actually keen on. And to reiterate that if you're expecting to stay on to the end of 6th year, you plan for the 2 years, not for 1. The labour market information is freely available on Skills Development Scotland website, and it gives you information like this. So in the Lanarkshire area over the next 10 years, these are the 4 areas that there's projected to be lots of jobs growth in. So useful to keep your eye on that. Where does this all lead? There is a basic final outcome, and that is a positive destination for all our pupils. We are here as a community to educate all and to ensure that everyone is prepared for the outside world, whatever pathway you choose out of school. And we will help you into whatever one you think fits you. I'll draw your attention briefly to graduate apprenticeship, because it's something that some of you will not be familiar with, and it basically offers a combination of practical work-based skills and a degree at the end of it. So it's quite common amongst financial institutions, but things like the whisky industry and also professions like chartered surveying. They are increasingly offering graduate apprenticeships. And the way it works is that you would work for 4 days a week with an employer, and then 1 day a week at university, and you would come out at the end of it with a degree, but also you're earning while you're doing that. So you're earning up to £18,000 a year. So hopefully at the end of the process you come out with a degree, lots of work experience, and no debt. So, keep your eyes out for that, Google it, and do some research on it. So that's the end of the presentation. It's been a whistle-stop tour. Keep your eyes on Twitter and the school website, and for pupils on your teams, on your year group teams, because the options process will be coming to you soon through that. Thank you.